Over the last 10 years of consistently training in the gym, I have managed to build what I would call my dream physique. But today I'm going to talk to you about exactly what I would do if I had to start all over again. So first, before we start talking about the fun things like your training, nutrition, everything that you kind of first think when it comes to changing your physique, what we are going to talk about is changing your mindset, because until you get that right, you will struggle with absolutely everything else there is for us to do. The first thing that you need to accept and understand is that in order to build a better physique, to become a different person that has that physique, or your dream physique, you are going to have to become a different person. Something needs to change, because at the end of the day, if nothing changes, nothing changes. So you're going to need to change what you do as a person, who you are, and what your day-to-day habits look like. So one thing that massively helped me, and something that I use to this day is, when it comes to decision making, whether let's call it going out on a night out, or maybe snacking, things that we know that will take away and often take away from us making progress with our physique, is I always ask myself the question of, what would Ben, that is in the best shape of his life, what would he do? Okay, and this goes for absolutely everything, not just kind of nutrition type scenarios, but when you think about, waking up in the morning, does Ben, that's in the best shape of his life, gets up, gets his steps done in the morning, or gets his cardio done in the morning, does he snooze the alarm, or does he actually get up and get his shit done? Does he miss a session? Does he miss cardio? All of these different bits and bobs, and very often the answer is just no, he gets shit done regardless. So this is something that I think you need to be reminding yourself of, and it's such an easy thing to do, to think of, what would me in the best shape of his life, what would he do with those situations? So again, it's something for you to keep in mind. And at the end of the day, just understanding that you are going to have to change. There's no other way about it. There's no, you cannot stay the same person and expect your body to change, your physique to improve. You're going to have to change, and that could include, what you do on your daily basis in terms of how much walking you do, whether you go out drinking every single weekend, who do you spend your time with? All of these different factors do play their part. Now, getting into the fun things, training. When it comes to training, a massive mistake I made at the very start was thinking the more the better. And for a couple of years, I trained 6 days a week, Monday through to Saturday, and just taking Sunday off. And that held back my progress massively, because at the end of the day, I was under recovering. My performance in the gym wasn't great, and I wasn't making as much progress with my strength as I would have imagined, or as I thought I should have, because again, I haven't given myself a chance to recover. So even though maybe my Monday, Tuesday sessions were great, then as the week went on further, what I've seen was a massive just drop off in performance. I wasn't able to push myself as hard as I should. I wasn't able to just make progress with the lifts that I was doing. So what I would say is, or what I would do differently now, is probably starting with a 3 or 4 day split. And I think 3 day split is great, because it would allow me to again recover properly. It's probably the best answer, but just because I love training so much, I think this the best solution in this situation, because I do love going to the gym, would be to train 4 times a week, and I would do an upper lower split. This would allow me to train every single muscle part twice every single week, and allow me to basically recover between each and every single session, and actually be able to progress significantly with every single one of my lifts, rather than just going to the gym for the sake of it, and probably not even getting a pump, not seeing any progress in the gym, and not seeing any progress with my physique for the most part. So again, this is something that I would really keep in mind in this case. In terms of how I would structure those sessions, again, as I said, 4 day split. In each day, I would do 6 to 8 exercises, split between each body part equally, and probably a little bit less for the lower body side of things. I would say 6 exercises on a leg day is plenty. And then what I would do is focus on a set of exercises for at least a 12-week period, and really focus on driving my performance as high as I possibly can. So really focusing on increasing the amount of weight that I'm using, so getting as strong as possible, then progressing with that weight as much as possible, so doing as much reps with as heavy of a weight as I possibly can, and most importantly form, making sure that I get that right, and not focusing on one thing over the other. I remember I would make the mistake of, one week being like, oh, I'm just really going to focus on form this week, and then next week I'm going to, work on strength or push myself hard. Where what we need to really do to really maximize your progress is put those two things together, is keeping your form perfect but also train as close to failure as you possibly can, and again progress over time when it comes to the load that you are using. Again, if you see a lot of progress that way, again you enjoy your training, again you want to be in the gym more just because you love it, what I would say then is, okay, you can progress to maybe a 5-day split where you can work on body parts a little bit more separately, doing like a push-pull leg split followed by, let's say, an upper and a lower. So then again you're getting that equal breakdown between each and every body part. Now, when it comes to nutrition side of things, this is where you're going to have to really look at your lifestyle and what makes sense for you. In order for you to be able to stick to a nutrition plan or a set of calories, macros, it has to make sense in regards to your lifestyle. So let's say you are someone that works in an office, potentially bringing salmon into an office and trying to heat that up in a microwave isn't going to go down very well. Or let's say you're someone that works on the road a lot, and bringing cold chicken and rice does not necessarily make sense. So having to find those alternatives to make sure that you are actually happy with the foods that you are having for each and every single meal is going to allow you to actually stay consistent in the long run. And then a couple of guidelines that I would actually go off is focus on using whole foods over processed stuff. Don't get caught up in always looking for high protein, this, that, and the other. And in this day and age, they make high protein everything, but a lot of the time it's a lot of processed stuff. And 99% of the time, you're going to be best off trying to create your meals out of single ingredient foods. So again, whole foods, fruit, vegetables, meats, dairy, again a little bit more processed in that sense, but again it's not something that's going to be it's not going to have a lot of additives in it to make that. So again, I would really focus on that. And if you are someone that does not know how much food you should actually be eating on day-to-day basis, what you can do is actually DM me on Instagram, just say macros, and I'll break down your macros for you for absolutely free. So again, if you are unsure about that, drop me a DM. And then when it comes to eating out, what I personally like to do is to make sure that I'm sticking to my plan long term, that I'm not getting sick of the diet side of things, whether that being increasing the amount of calories depending on my goal, whether I want to drop body fat or increase muscle mass. What I would do is make sure that I have an off-plan meal once a week. Again, not an off-plan day, just a single meal where I go out for food, go somewhere nice, make sure that it allows me to switch off from the day-to-day of dieting, that I'm not just constantly trying to do the same thing, making my own foods. A chance to go out for food and get dressed and go somewhere nice gives you that bit of an experience, and again breaks down that consistency of dieting in itself. So next up on the list, we have a routine, and building a routine that works for you is absolutely key. I think a massive mistake I see from people that always fail to stick to a plan or goal that they've set out for themselves is because they don't have a set routine. And the routine has to be realistic. You cannot expect yourself to, let's say, do a number of sessions that you genuinely just don't have time for. And whether that be in weight sessions, cardio sessions. And again, what I would do if I was to start out again, because this is something that I do till this day, is either use Google Calendar or do it in your notes, pen and paper, whatever suits you best. But I would write down every single thing that I have to do from the moment I wake up till the moment I go back to bed, and just plan from, again, what time do I need to wake up at to make sure that everything gets done in the day. Do I need to go for a walk to get my steps? Do I need to meal prep? When do I go to do each and every session throughout the week? What days do I do my meal prep on? And what I would say is do it on rest days when you're not actually in the gym, so you have that little bit more time. What days do I go get my food shop done? So again, you know exactly what needs to be done when. So you have a clear timeline of, okay, this is where things get done. So nothing kind of goes without you noticing, and again, you can just get everything done and you can tick it off as you go along. I think it's going to make a massive difference for your week. And again, put in a little bit of rest time for yourself as well, whether you have a family or a girlfriend that you want to spend time with. Put that in there so you know you have time for absolutely everything, and there's just time and place for each and everything for you to be able to get done, and again, be able to make sure that you are productive with your time. Because a lot of the time, you know, people say they're too busy, or they have too much going on. A lot of the time, yes, being busy does not mean you're productive. So you could spend a lot of time doing something that you could do a lot quicker if you have a clear timeline of what has to be done within that day. Next up is recovery. Okay, and this is probably the most important and the most overlooked part when it comes to getting in shape, that I kind of see that people just don't necessarily think about. They don't talk about it. They're not necessarily, it's not something that doesn't come to mind when you think of building a better physique and getting in the best shape of your life. But it makes all the difference, and it affects absolutely everything you do, starting from your morning when you wake up in the morning, you know, how you feel getting up out of bed. Do you have energy or not? Your hunger signals throughout the day. Do you have balanced hunger signals, or do you get cravings all the time, whether that's salty or something sweet, something that will kind of throw you off from your diet? It makes all of the difference. Being able to perform in the gym at 100% is going to be absolutely key, and it's going to be determined by your ability to recover. And a couple of ways to kind of keep an eye out on whether your recovery is where it should be is, number one, your ability to manage stress. Are you able to actually manage things that shouldn't necessarily be that stressful, but you're finding them extremely irritating or just feel stressed out all the time? Next is tiredness. Do you feel overly tired all the time? Again, I don't even mean for training, but waking up in the morning, you know, is that something that's a struggle at the moment? Again, cravings is another one. High cravings are not normal, especially if you're not someone that is extremely lean or in a diet. You know, you should not be craving stuff all the time. Next is just poor performance in the gym, so not being able to progress within each and every session. And I don't mean seeing massive jumps in weight, but I just mean an extra rep or two in each and every session. If you're seeing zero progress, that is a problem. So how do we actually improve our recovery? There is a lot of ways to kind of do that. Number one thing that I would say is doing the correct amount of training volume. So again, being realistic with how much your body can actually take when it comes to the training standpoint. Two is going to be your nutrition, making sure that you are actually eating enough to fuel yourself to perform, and again, have energy for day-to-day stuff like work, playing with your kids, whatever it may be. And most importantly, it's going to be your sleep. Sleep is king of recovery. If you have poor sleep, it's going to affect, again, absolutely everything that you do. There's no ice bath or massage or sauna that's ever going to fix that for you. So this is something that I really want you to focus, is making sure that your sleep is absolutely on lock. And how do we improve our sleep? Number one, make sure that you have a clean environment for your sleep. So your bedroom is spotless, it is cool, it is dark, and you only use it for two things, and that is sleep and what you do with your missus. Because at the end of the day, you want to make sure that when you get into bed, your body only thinks about one of two things, and you're not distracting yourself in bed with eating or maybe scrolling on your phone, because that's always going to hold you back from being able to get good quality sleep or even falling asleep in the first place, if that's something you struggle with. And then if you have spare time and money for things like saunas, massages, ice baths, absolutely do it. But again, do not put that over your sleep in terms of priorities. Your sleep is always going to be the most important thing in that aspect. Next, we're going to talk about negative habits. And as I said at the start, you're going to have to change as a person in order to achieve a different physique. And if you have negative habits like going out every single weekend, it's always going to hold you back, and you'll never really get a clean run at, really making big impact in your physique. And one thing that I always see when it comes to motivation and being able to continue is people that don't make significant progress are always held back by that in the long run, because they always second guess themselves and don't think it's worth continuing on, because they don't see a big return on their investment with their time and effort in the gym and when it comes to nutrition. And don't get me wrong, I went through a time where I used to go out all the time and I had negative habits, but at the end of the day, as much as those times were great, they were great fun, I was not happy with who I was as a person. Outside of those times, those specific times, I wasn't happy with my day-to-day life. And at the end of the day, I would rather be happier with my every single day than just a couple of hours of drinking and whatnot on the weekend. So once I started acting like the person that I wanted to become, my life became 10 times better. And last thing that I wanted to say is, and this is not just because I'm a coach, but be accountable to someone. Being held to a higher standard is going to allow you to make so much more progress so much quicker, because you're not going to let yourself make the small mistakes and going to be pushed outside of your comfort zone of what you know, again, what you're comfortable with. So you're going to work that little bit harder to make that bit more progress. So this is it, lads. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, drop them down in the comments or drop me a DM on Instagram.